And when the country was first formed, our first president was George Washington. He's known to us in Jefferson County for a variety of reasons. But Mr. Washington came to Jefferson County also to look for a suitable location for a place to build these firearms. Now, I picked the Charleville for a reason. That's because in the American Revolution, the principal arm that we were armed with from another country at first was the brown vest from Britain. But as you can imagine, the British were a little hostile and angry with us, so that didn't last too long. So we went looking for other sources, and the French, ever anxious to do battle with England, were able to arm us with the Charleville pattern musket. We had a lot of these left over from the Revolutionary War. And what ended up happening was that we took that musket pattern, and the Ordnance Department said, you know, we need to copy what we have already in stock, what makes the most sense, and that would be the Charleville. So Washington came to Jefferson County and had a look at the area and said, well, you know what you need to build a gun? If you notice when I'm holding this gun, you need wood, right? And you need metal. Well, it just so happens in Jefferson County that we have brown hematite flowing under the rocks and under the ground. And to tell you what that is, that's iron ore. There had already been existing iron furnaces in the county, and in fact in the Shenandoah Valley and up through the Cumberland Valley, up through the Appalachian Stream. So iron is a necessity when you're making guns. Also to make the machineries and the cutting bits and the tools that you will need to make all these pieces. The other product you need is wood, hardwood to be exact. You need walnut perhaps to make the dense stocks. Sometimes maple is used, but the reason that's often overlooked about why Harpers Ferry and Jefferson County seemed a suitable place at the time is that we had lots of other hardwoods. And hardwoods are used to form charcoal. And charcoal is what fires forges that will do the casting, foundries that will do the casting, forges that will be used to heat and forge the metal into shapes. Charcoal will also be used in foundries and furnaces to make the raw iron itself. So those raw materials existed in Jefferson County. And also the one component of all this that we did have was water power, magnificent water power in the form of the falls of the Shenandoah. As you know, the Shenandoah and the Potomac converge and they come together. And as they come together, there is a powerful current. So if you wanted to take a wheel, let's say, or a turbine, and go and plop it into the river next to you, or build a canal so that you capture some of that falling energy, and then you're able to turn an axis or a shaft and then transfer that so that it turns belts and things, and well, guess what? You've made a factory. And that is why the area was looked at to build firearms. There were some other reasons. Obviously, we're a little closer to the capital of Washington City, and it was felt that the location in Jefferson County was far enough away from the Chesapeake Bay and the sea area so that an invading enemy like the British in 1812 would have a hard time getting to it, let's say, within a day's time. It would take them a while to get across the mountains and over the roads and passes. So it was a strategic location to build firearms, and it was considered a defensible one. And also all the raw materials were there to build these parts and pieces that we're going to talk about today. The other thing that's overlooked often in the discussion of the making of muskets and rifles is you have to have the people who are talented enough to make them. Well, in the area, we had a nice collection of craftsmen, gunsmiths, professional gunsmiths who had trained under the craftsmanship system, master gunsmiths in Virginia and Maryland and Pennsylvania. So you have that large resource to draw upon to fill the factory system to build these pieces. And all the parts and pieces of this plan come together. And so one of the first pieces produced in the armory system looks an awful lot like this. It's called the Model 1795 U.S. musket, and it's probably an exact copy of what I'm holding in my hand, the Charleville. And so that will go on for years, and that's the principal arm that we're interested in at the Armory System of producing. In the Revolutionary War, America had a secret. Well, not really so much of a secret, but an idea that was novel to us. We in this country had rifles, and we had riflemen. And the idea was that instead of having a barrel like this one that is smooth and you dump something in and it falls to the bottom, it's not about speed as much as it is about accuracy. I'm going to discuss rifling with you just a little bit. In my hand I'm holding a nice period piece. This is a double rifle. It's made by a master craftsman. If you notice the candy striping on the rod, there's no practical reason for that, but it sure does look good. That says that the man who made this, or the men who made this, were excellent at what they did. The piece that is rifled is a thick-walled barrel. And inside that barrel are a series of grooves and rises or lands. They twist as they go to the bottom of the barrel. And the idea behind a rifle is that you would put your powder down, then you would put a cloth patch, usually soaked in some kind of a fat or a lard substance, to make it slide down easier. Then a very tight-fitting ball. And here's where the ramrod comes in handy. You will need this because it's going to be tight-fitting to push it all the way down to the very bottom of the chamber so that it fires. When you fire the rifle, the idea is that the patch takes up the grooves and starts to spin. It's much like throwing a football. If you throw a football and spiral it, it goes farther, straighter, and faster than if you just threw it end over end and it would tumble. The rifle was the same principle. Put a spin on the ball and made it much more accurate. So the United States Armory at Harpers Ferry also produced rifles. Some of the first rifles that were produced were called contract rifles. The first United States product, armory product, in a rifle form was the model 1803. Some people have thought that maybe Lewis and Clark took that rifle with them when they went west. There's still some question about that. Probably they might have taken a 1798 contract rifle with them. In any event, the rifle was an idea that stuck in America. It was something that you would issue to a picket or a vedette. That's a soldier that advances out in front of the main body of troops, or perhaps to a sharpshooter, someone who stays behind and who's going to shoot at, let's say, an officer or an important person that you wanted to eliminate from the battlefield. The rifle would never go away, and the idea of rifling would actually never go away. But again, the thing to emphasize here is that the musket is fast to load, the rifle is slow to load. The rifle, you may get 1 shot per minute with proficiency. The musket, you will have shooting 3 to 4 times per minute. So it's about the amount of lead in the air. I'm mentioning all these things to you because in the American Civil War, all of this comes to a head. And we'll progress through some of the pieces that we have here, and we'll talk about the changes that come. As beautiful as this piece is that I hold in my hand, as well made as it is, and it is well made, it probably took a master gunsmith, I'd say, a good 3 to 4 months of his life. That's starting with every piece of it and hand making every piece of it. So while it's beautiful to behold and very functional and very strong, if you're on a battlefield and if some part breaks, you can't reach into a box of parts and slap another one on there.